Camilla Gornia joins us today from San Diego, California. She is a digital marketing strategist for business owners who want to learn how to market themselves online. And yes, we do talk about all that juicy business stuff because I love chatting about all of it. We also veered off way into left field because one of the areas of life that Camilla is personally experiencing bravery in is online dating. So now this online dating, this is bravery in some of its rawest form. It's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about, so much so that last year I wrote a semi-comedic tongue-in-cheek song about it called Midlife Minefield. The YouTube video for that song and all of Camilla's awesomeness are available in the show notes for this episode at barenakedbravery.com. including the link to find out more information on all of the upcoming bravery classes that are kicking off really soon. Again, those links will all be in the show notes for this episode. So you got to go to barenakedbravery.com and type in online dating or Camilla, Kamila, and her face will pop right up. And yeah, I mean, putting yourself out there and literally asking folks if they like you or not is such a huge thing. It's so scary. There's a lot of rejection involved, and our emotions can end up scrambling how all the factors interact with each other. It can be a hot mess, and in turn, it'll make us feel like a hot mess too, even if we're not. What I loved about this really honest conversation with Camilla is that even though we were chatting about online dating, the topic of business was never far off because just like dating, running a business and being creative involves putting yourself out there in a really big way. So with that, I give you the lovely Camilla Gornia. You're listening to Barenaked Bravery, a weekly podcast hosted by me, Emily Ann Peterson. As a singer-songwriter, author, teaching artist, and creative entrepreneur, I encounter some really fascinating stories. I'm on a mission to reveal the depth and width of bravery and its benefits to creatives like yourself. More than ever today, our world needs bravery, unique bravery, from everyone. This is the place where you find it. There is no script or censorship today because that's how these facets of Barenaked Bravery are in real life. So if you're listening with little ears nearby, please know that some episodes may contain mature language and subject matter. One of the easiest ways you can share bravery with the world is to send this episode to a friend or two. Send them an email, text, or tweet. Tag them in one of my Instagram posts. My handle is Emily Ann Pete. Or leave us a review on iTunes. It takes seconds and can be done from your phone right now. Again, we need more bravery in the world. So let's be brave together. Okay, Camilla, are you ready for some Barenaked Bravery?
Yes.
Let's do it. I think that you have got some good stuff going on, first of all. For those of us that are not that familiar with you, can you give us a little bit of overview of like who you are, what you're doing?
Yeah.
And why are you different?
Why am I different? Oh man. Well, what I do, I'm on my third business and it's the first intentional, most aligned business, and it's a marketing, education, and coaching company. And I'm a personal brand. So what I do is I support other entrepreneurs and really stepping into what they feel like they're meant to be doing when it comes to their mission and really positioning their marketing campaigns and their strategies in a way that aligns with their personality and how they actually want to lead their business and just doing things their way. And it's kind of funny because I was talking about this with a friend recently, and we were talking about our passions. And I've been doing marketing for since I was 12. So I've been doing it for a long time, but marketing isn't my why. Marketing isn't my passion, even though I'm so freaking good at it. My passion is helping other people in general really be more themselves and align themselves with their success and like whatever that looks like for them. So a lot of people, I have friends that are artists and I don't know how to help them specifically when it comes to like getting their art out there, but it's when I see that they're actually going out there and doing stuff to live their purpose, if you will. It sounds so cheesy, but it's kind of what it is. When I see people being able to like step into their power, like that's really why I do what I do. And marketing and entrepreneurship is like the medium for me to do that. But yeah, so it all kind of, that's the biggest, the bigger why behind it, that.
I have noticed just in my own educating of other people and learning from other people and consulting with other entrepreneurs that we often get into a business because we ourselves need that business.
Yeah, I like that.
Do you agree with that?
I think I do agree with it in a sense. When it comes to my business, I don't know if I needed it for what I'm doing because it's been very innate for me in terms of marketing, but I think it's allowed me to, a lot of the side effects of owning this business have been internal and have been personal. So I think on the one hand, yeah, I definitely did it because it allowed me to grow into the person I needed to become. A lot of it, like I said, a lot of it had to do with through personal development and accepting the fact that I can enjoy my work and not have to like be told what to do when I never was that excited about doing that necessarily. And so I think because of that, yeah, definitely.
I mean, I found that because when I'm working with other creatives and on marketing, putting themselves out there kind of stuff, there's like that hump, that little like obstacle of like, I want to be brave. And then once they make the choice to do it and they execute the choice to be brave, not necessarily execute the brave feat, but they make the choice to be brave. I feel like that's the bigger hurdle than the I'm going to launch or I'm going to release this thing or I'm going to make my big ask. Have you noticed that in your own business and in your own?
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed it for myself and for my clients too. I think a big thing is admitting to yourself that you're going to commit to something. And then that's when it becomes, I mean, it's still not easy per se, but it becomes easier because I feel like a lot of times people tell themselves they're doing everything they can to do whatever, but they haven't actually even told anybody that they're doing it. So it's like, well, are you though? Are you sure you're really trying to accomplish that goal? And it doesn't have to do with business. It can be anything. It could be trying to get healthy or, or I mean, whatever, or like auditioning for, I don't know, American Idol. I don't know. But it's a lot of people hold it to themselves and then they say that, oh yeah, but I'm doing everything. It's fine. But in reality, I mean, no, you're not, because until you actually claim it and you don't, like, you're going to commit every part of yourself into actually committing that to that and achieving that goal. Whether you actually achieve it or not is irrelevant. It's just that commitment that I think really shifts everything, and then things tend to align to help you because it's a huge step for people. So
okay, without using any names, you don't have to. You can if you want to, but without using any names, what have been some choices to commit to putting yourself out there that you have witnessed as a marketing lady friend?
As a marketing lady friend, do you mean like with my clients or?
Yeah. What have there been any moments of bravery that you've been like really proud of your clients for doing?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. Honestly, it's all the time. I think the biggest. So I have clients in all like different ages, and like my youngest is 21. My oldest client, I think, in the 70s, maybe. So especially for my a little bit older clients where they're not very used to technology and online marketing is like a whole different world to a lot of them. And a lot of people, not necessarily even, I don't think it even has to do with age, actually. I think it's just the mindset where, oh, I'm not techie, I'm not going to do anything, when they can't afford to hire someone to do it for them. So if you want to grow, I mean, there's really no way around it. Like, you have to do some technology. You either do it yourself or you have someone else do it for you. And I feel like a lot of people just say, no, I'm not I'm not good at it. I'm just going to not do it. So what's really amazing to me is when a client or a student or somebody that I see out there is willing to flip that story around and say, you know what, how do I know if I'm not techie if I haven't actually even tried it? And, the truth of the matter is that we're all not techie until we are because no one is born knowing how to do this stuff. So I feel like whenever I see somebody really facing the fact that that doesn't have to be their story and be willing to change it, that I think that's typically when I feel super proud and I feel just really excited that, it is a huge thing to do. It's a huge like hurdle to overcome, to commit to learning how to do something that you normally people would say is just, you're never going to learn. That can be, that's for anything. It's not just, I'm using the technology example because I see that all the time with my students, but it could be, I'm seeing a guitar in the background. So it could be like playing guitar and like, oh, I've always wanted to know how to play guitar, but I'm just not a very musical person. Like I just never had very success with musical instruments. So I'm just not going to do it. Well, you're never going to learn. And maybe they're going to take some lessons, but until they actually commit to, you know what? No, I'm going to be freaking awesome. And I'm going to, I'm just going to be great at playing guitar.
Or even, you don't even have to make the choice to be great. You just have to make the choice to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I also, when I'm teaching any sort of music or creative endeavor, that's always what I'm saying, is that just by trying, you are being creative.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Just by practicing your instrument, you are being a guitarist. Or just by attempting to be techie, you are being techie.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I mean by saying I'm great at guitar. I think it's a mindset thing. It's not like objectively you're amazing, the best guitarist ever. That's not necessarily the goal that I recommend for people to have, but it's when you know deep inside that because you're doing this every day and you step into your inner guitarist, I would say, then it's going to be easier for you to practice even when it gets harder because, but I'm a great guitarist. I'm just great because I just know I am, and that's what it is. And it's more of a subjective thing, right. I would say. And same with technology, same with, visibility, same with, writing a book, whatever. It's what we step into as what we believe we are deep inside. And we can call that person out. We can call it out as our alter ego even, and just step into that and live as that person. And that person wouldn't give up immediately because it gets hard if that person is an amazing author already, right? So that's kind of how I look at it from that mindset perspective too. I don't know if that's a specific exercise or not, but that's what I do.
I was going to ask if your clients had a moment or a question that they were asking themselves just before they contacted you or called you up or made the decision to be brave and put themselves out there in a different way. Is there a switch that happens?
It really depends on the client and it depends on the place they're at in their business. So for the people that are a little bit newer in business, there's definitely a lot more things they have to go through mentally in terms of mental blocks to be able to even reach out to somebody and actually commit to doing that. But then there's two sides of this too, because some people reach out just because they want, they think just reaching out and having someone is going to fix everything, but they're still not committing. And then there's the people that are actually committing and therefore they're reaching out. So those people tend to be a lot more successful because first they're starting with themselves. They're not looking for a Band-Aid. They're looking for a guide, a path to get to where they're going inevitably anyways. So I think that's typically what happens. And I think it's a lot of times it's because they've been trying to do it on their own and they kept coming against these roadblocks. And it isn't easy, especially when you're doing it yourself. And there's things you don't know. And then there's things that you do, but you're starting to see shiny object syndrome, all the things, what do you even focus on? And then comparing yourself to others, Karen is so much further ahead than I am. And we started at the same time. I must be terrible. I must suck completely. And it's, it's kind of just becoming aware of these things and being willing to commit to actually showing up regardless and asking for help.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears a wee bit. So we talked a little bit about your clients and how they're being brave and how you've witnessed them be brave. But let's go back a little bit more to you. What is facing you right now in terms of being brave?
Me?
Personally?
You personally?
Yeah.
Dating.
It doesn't have to be business related.
It's dating.
It's dating.
Mhm.
Yeah, girl, me too.
Oh, see? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's
I've never been very good at dating.
Okay,
So
so
yeah,
can we talk about that? Because I don't think
please.
I have either. So we have, at least between us two, I don't
Yeah.
know about everybody else.
I'm sure I'm sure that's probably a pretty hot topic in general
Oh
among a
yeah.
lot of people.
Oh yeah. How is dating a brave choice for you these days?
So I've been really weird around dating in the past because so I started off and, I dated some people when I was much younger. And then I was like, never again. I'm done with men. Like I'm stopping this. This is crazy. Because I've been cheated on and I'm just like, not happening. I'm done. I'm just going to do me. And then I started my business too. So I was like, okay, I'm busy with my business and coming up with all kinds of excuses. And I think I just wasn't ready to step into anything for a long time. So now, and I moved because I lived in Chicago, then I lived in New York, and now I live in San Diego. So I kind of was moving around a lot. And now that I'm here, I feel like things are kind of falling into place a lot more because my business is going well and I feel like I have more time. And now it's kind of forcing me to look at other parts of my life where I haven't felt very like fulfilled necessarily, but I've been pushing it to the side and it hasn't been super fun. I mean, it's been fun having friends, but there's still like something that has been missing. So I think for me, because I haven't necessarily been so great at it, because I typically would be like, I go on a date and I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Like, bye immediately almost. And I used to go into it like assuming it's gonna be terrible and just like assuming it's not gonna work. So my entire like energy wasn't very good. So the brave thing for me was actually facing it and seeing that I have to do some work on myself and it's before I'm ready to do that and I have done work on myself and I feel like I've been stepping into that a lot more and it's been much better. It's been it's been actually quite, dare I say, fun to date now, which is kind of crazy, but
I'm curious how, because the last time I had a successful experience with online dating, there was a switch between, for me, there was a switch between this is work and what the hell, let's
yeah.
just try something.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
And like making it, because that switch, like in the work element, was like every time I would go to a date or show up at the coffee shop with kind of like that, okay, let's get this over with kind of like thing, or having preconceived expectations that a person was going to be a certain way or not going to be a certain way. Those expectations didn't do me any favors because it's never going to be the way you think it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
So I think I just got like worn down during that bout of online dating. I just got worn down and finally got to the place where I was like, what the hell? Let's just go. Let's see what this guy is about, And that kind of curiosity opened up a new door that made me look and appear more open as well.
Yeah, I think that's really key because for me, I totally relate to everything that you're saying too. And what happened in the past too is I was a lot more closed off because I was feeling, not to get like woo, but I was a lot more in my masculine energy before and I didn't want to leave because that's where I felt safe. That's where I felt, that was my comfort zone because that's business, right? Like being more in your masculine, getting sales and like marketing and numbers, very masculine. So being in the more feminine, like curious and like, we'll see what happens. And like twirling my hair, that was not me. And it's very vulnerable for me to feel that way. And it's like, it's so open and like, here I am. And it's very uncomfortable. So obviously it hasn't worked before. And then the guys that I was attracting were like, just very
they weren't
passive. Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't want that either. So now I've been stepping more, I agree. Like I've been stepping more into just being more feminine. So just being curious and not having expectations and just like, I'm just going to go and have fun and just whatever. I'm just going to be me and whatever happens, happens. I'm just, which is definitely a different way to approach it versus, oh my God, this guy's not going to be good enough and I'm not going to be good enough. And like, he's not going to understand that I have a business and he's not going to understand that I can't hang out with him all the time. Like, I haven't even met the guy yet. And I'm already thinking I'm not going to have the time for him. It's like, okay, something's not right here, Camila. So it's kind of, yeah, definitely having like no expectations, no attachment to anything that happens and just showing up and, you know, being myself too, which has been definitely different because it's very, you know, personal to just not pretend to be someone else.
So let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. You are naturally really good at marketing and the numbers and everything. And so naturally that masculine aspect of you, it's easy for that side of you to appear and show up. How are you incorporating that side of you into this openness? And, you know, I
understand what you're asking.
Squash ourselves in order to, yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily that because I am feminine. I just am feminine with my friends. And whenever I would go on a date before, I would step more into the masculine energy versus being balanced, which is how I normally am in like my daily life. And it was because I would feel competitive when I would go with, you know, and meet these guys because like, oh, I have to show him that I'm successful. And like, I have to show him that I'm like, you know, it was just like weird part of me, like an insecure part of me would come out before where I had to prove my worth to be like, especially when it was a good looking guy, I'm like, I have to prove that I'm worthy of being here because I am successful and I'm so much better than you. And it's just like not a very good way to approach this. But now I'm, you know, I am marketing minded and I talk about that, you know, I just don't talk about it only. And it's actually a smart part of what I talk about. And I think before, you know, I had like, it has to be an entrepreneur or, you know, some kind of a business owner or a C-suite executive. And it's like, that's not even like, it doesn't have to be. And I think I kind of let go of that too, where it's not about the labels. It's about like how we connect with the person. So I lead with the connection and I am myself. And when it's, you know, when it's time to talk about my business, I talk about my business, but I've just been, because it's no expectations and I'm not trying to compete with them and I'm not seeing them as like a threat necessarily. I think it's been easier for me to be more balanced in that sense.
Mm-hmm. I agree. This episode is brought to you by my lovely Bravery students. I know we've got a lot of new listeners lately. Welcome! So if you're new to the show, allow me to introduce you to the concept of what a Bravery student is. Authors, musicians, visual artists, shop owners, journal writers, fellow podcasters, and even prodigal creatives. All of you face some pretty daunting things, which is why it is truly an honor to witness my students unfold and reveal extremely impressive and really badass bravery within their work and their life. And that's exactly what happens in a bravery lesson too. My students and I spend time looking at the vulnerability, imagination, and improvisation their situation is requiring of them. Then we clear a path for all of that and we make a plan for moving forward. It's really tangible and really, honestly, by the end of every lesson, there's this like big breath of relief for what we uncover and how we can move forward. You can find more info for all of that at emilyannpeterson.com/classes. Regardless of whether I'm working with one-on-one students or a class of bravery students who are focusing on one big subject like life transitions, finding your voice, unleashing your creativity, or even simply self-promotion skills, all of my students walk away from each lesson with a tangible 1 to 3 things they can accomplish to practice and become the brave, badass creatives they want to become. I've got a couple classes coming up in the near future, so be sure to get on the waiting list for the ones that strike your fancy, and maybe even the ones that terrify you just a little bit. Go to emilyannpeterson.com/classes. There you will see a buffet of opportunities to take the next steps. So again, go to emilyannpeterson.com/classes for more information. Now let's get back to today's conversation. So now I'm just curious, are you doing online dating or are you doing like IRL dating?
No, I'm doing online dating and then taking it to in person, but it's really hard to meet people in person. I feel like I'm very non-skilled in that. Don't remember the last time I met. No, I do. Last week. But that like before that, it's been years before I met a guy in person and he like came up, like how they always talk like, oh, he's going to look at you across the bar and then you're going to look at him and he's going to come and like, do you want to get coffee? What? Does that really happen in people's lives? Because that's never happened to me. Like, I can't tell you. It's crazy. I don't know. Do you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, and that's also part of like the drawback to working from home is that the people that I have interactions with are the people that I intentionally make an effort to interact with, like this, or other colleagues or whatever. So that's been one of the reasons why I've chosen to go back in and doing online dating, is because I'm already online. That's where my life is mostly. So it makes sense to date via that way as well. However, I have a few online dating tips, but I thought it would be fun for you to share a couple too. Are you willing?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my go-to tips, if you've never done online dating or you're scared to do it, is to make sure that you have some sort of like, the first meeting should always be like really short. And I always try to make it clear when we're like creating that like coffee date that I have something else right afterwards. So it's that like, and I've made this rule happen. And this is actually one of my friend John's rules as well, because both of us have gotten caught in a really awkward conversation and it just lasted way too long and you can't get out of it. So if you create a natural like, oh, I've got a friend's birthday party to go to, so see you later, then you have an easy way to take a deep breath and go, okay, I actually really liked that guy. Let's try it again.
I like that.
That's one of my tips.
And it's less pressure too, because it's not like, okay, we're going to sit there for 2 hours and do that. Actually, quick story about that. This is how I learned this lesson the hard way also. And this was probably 3 years ago. And I was talking to this guy online and he seemed normal online. And then we met and it was a dinner date, which, oh God, do not do dinner dates. I have done 2 dinner dates by accident recently. I didn't know we were doing that until like, I'm like, oh, this is a restaurant. But it turned out fine. But so I went on this date and it was a very small place and we got sushi. And this guy is he is the most racist, sexist, like immigrantist guy ever. And he starts talking about his neighbor who is from Russia and he's talking all this shit about him. Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss here.
Go for it.
He's talking all this crap about him and how he needs to go back to Russia and like where he belongs. I'm just like, you do know I am an immigrant from Poland, right? Just like this freaking guy, like who does he think he is? And the entire time I'm just like, I could not get out of there fast enough. I swear. Oh my God. It was the worst date ever. And I just felt so slimy and disgusting afterwards that I was stuck there for like an hour and a half. But ever since I'm like, never again. Like, I don't want to put myself in that situation. So yes, absolutely.
I think that I've also been in a similar situation, not the political nightmare of being stuck at a table with somebody who has completely opposite views than your own. But I have been stuck in a conversation that lasted way too long. And because you're in the progression of a dinner date, you can't get out in a socially appropriate way.
Yeah.
So then you feel stuck. And I think that's a lot of folks' hesitation when they're they want to be brave in a certain area. And they've made the choice that, yes, it needs to happen. But they hesitate in actually, quote unquote, pulling the trigger because they don't know what's going to happen on the other side. And so what I've learned is that and this is like marketing, dating, whatever. What I've learned is that if you can even just set up some sort of structure for what might happen on the other side of like, if you say you're going to go on this date, it's going to last max 45 minutes. Anything can happen in those 45 minutes. You can still be stuck in an awful conversation in 45 minutes. But at least at that point, the framework for how long it's going to last is not up for grabs, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think to kind of go off of your tip, I have another one.
Please.
Especially, so we have mostly women listening.
Yeah, but we've got some dudes listening too. So
dudes. I would say here's what I recommend, and this might be more of I'm a little bit more traditional when it comes to dating, which is fine. So I think that if someone is asking you out, like the guy is asking you out or another lady is asking you out, then I think it's appropriate that that place that you're going to is easy for that other person to access and it's close to their place, wherever that is. And I think it's for like, I'm very big on security and like feeling secure because I've lived in, major cities. So I'm always like, if I have to run, my house is nearby. They don't know where it is, but I know it's close by. So I always like recommend, I live downtown San Diego. So I'm always like, somewhere downtown San Diego. Mm-hmm. And whenever they recommend somewhere where I have to travel like 45 minutes, that's a no for me because that feels kind of like iffy. Like, why do you want me to trek out over there? You're asking me out. I'm not gonna, so I think it's, it is more traditional kind of mindset, but I think
but that's your comfort zone.
Right.
That's your, I think even when we're trying to be brave in marketing or business, there is a comfort zone that we can still hold onto. Mm-hmm. Like just because you've chosen to be brave doesn't mean you have to abandon all of your comfort and be completely uncomfortable.
Well, I think especially for the first like date or two, because you don't know that person either. And they're typically they're typically on their best behavior a lot of times. Yeah. So, that's great. But it's also, especially if it's a shorter date, like go off and do your own thing afterwards. And I think that's, and just like meeting in a public place, I think that's kind of an obvious one, but always like a restaurant or a bar, coffee shop or something where there's people around and not in the middle of nowhere also where, I have a very dark mind. I'm like,
hey, but that's the thing. Like, okay, so I know we have both men and women listening. Yeah. And
I think this is enlightening for guys in terms of what girls think though.
Oh, yes. It totally is. In fact, I've often wondered like what's on the other side of the dating app for the guys? Because, I'm seeing I wrote a song all about online dating. I'll put it in the show notes. It's hilarious. Just because I was at a songwriting workshop, and somebody was like, oh my gosh, Emily, you should write a song about online dating. You're always talking about how hilariously awkward it is. Mm-hmm. It's great material. And it was. But I mean, on the girl side of things, we're seeing a lot of guys holding fish, a lot of guys standing on mountains.
Yeah, so many.
A lot of guys standing next to their cars, that kind of stuff. And to women, that doesn't make sense to us. No. Although it does make sense that, the last time you got a picture taken, you were doing something momentous, like purchasing a car, holding a fish, or...
Something else that I actually look at when it comes to dating profiles, and I look at guys' profiles, if it's all selfies, I usually am a no for that person. And the reason why I never really saw that, it wasn't like a conscious thing, but then I read an article that people that take selfies all the time tend to be significantly more likely to be psychopaths. Ooh. Yeah, it was like a specific or sociopaths. I mean, I don't know. Something like freaking crazy. And they can have like lack of empathy and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to put myself in that situation. So anytime it's like all selfies, I'm like, yeah, no, even you're cute, but that's a little like, don't you have friends? Don't you have pictures? Like, don't you have friends to go out with? And like,
well, and I'm sure that that same thing happens on the other side of the apps for the dudes. Anyways, I think it's just a fascinating subject because it's a really interesting cross-section of our culture. And it involves a really brave choice to put yourself out there and say, hey, do you like me?
Yeah.
That's a really tough question.
Yeah. And a lot of times we face rejection too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What have you learned about rejection in this?
That it sucks. Oh my God. In business, it's not. In business, it's fine because it's expected. I've learned to really I would say not take it personally because it is, there's reasons. But when it comes to like the personal side, I'm still learning to not take it personally because there's, especially when we put ourselves out there and it's like a vulnerable thing and we have insecurities of ourselves and then we're rejected. It's like, well, is it because of X, which is my insecurity, or is it because of the other insecurity that I have, or is another one? And a lot of times we don't think about like, well, maybe he just got back with his ex-girlfriend and he was just here for a little while. Like, I think that now more that like, well, it could have been a lot of things, not just because of, I don't know, whatever, because of whatever about me that I'm not comfortable with.
Totally. And it could be as simple as they had a busy week at work.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really fascinating that online dating makes it easier to reject people.
Mm-hmm. Ghosting.
Mm-hmm. And it also makes it a little bit easier to be rejected as well, because the touch point is not as deep or not as personal. Right?
Yeah.
It's just a photo.
Right.
Or it's just a paragraph about you.
Yeah. I mean, from that sense, I think it's pretty easy. But like once you actually start dating somebody, then it becomes, like, oh, but I thought we got along. And then all of a sudden you're ghosting me and you're not responding to my texts. Like, are you alive? Like, what happened to you? And that is a thing that I do not like about today's day and age where it's so easy. Yeah, it's so rude. I just think it's so rude.
Oh, yeah. If you don't know what ghosting is, it's basically when you're texting with somebody or you've gone on a few dates with somebody and they just kind of vanish.
Yeah, they stop responding. They're just gone.
Talking to you. Yeah, they're just gone. And you don't know why. Yeah. And you're not necessarily really allowed, depending on the situation, you're not necessarily allowed to go, hey, man, what happened? Because
you don't want to be needy either. Like
clearly,
crazy person.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that the online dating world has brought about. I miss the times where, it's like phone call and then you're meeting there and then you're actually going to be there, because if you're not there, you must have literally died, because who breaks dates?
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's bring it back into being in business. What have you learned from online dating that has helped you as a business owner? And this could maybe pertain to marketing. Maybe it has to do with just the general like back end of owning a business. But yeah, what has dating today, or this most recent attempt, what has it taught you about your own business?
I think a lot of it has been kind of intertwined. I think one of the things that is similar from business and dating that I actually learned about in business and then that transferred into dating, so I'll just do that first, is that you do need to talk to a lot of people before you actually like meet someone that's, like quality for you. Just as in business, you have to typically talk to a lot of people. And whenever we attach ourselves to somebody or like create expectations, it's, it might just not be a good fit. And it's the same thing, I think, with dating. So it's been very similar from that sense. But something else that I actually was doing on my dating profiles that clearly was not attracting the right people. I was talking in a very like masculine energy, again, very checklists, like I am this. I am looking for da 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 da. And I don't like this. And if you're this, don't even bother messaging me. And I'm just like, and I felt so like, and somebody actually told me, a friend told me, she's like, you sound so jaded. No one's going to want to talk to you. Like, you just sound like very controlling. I'm like, oh man, I am controlling. And same with business. I mean, it's important that we do things strategically and with intent, but we also can't control anything, and business included. Like, we can't control how our clients are going to behave. We can't control if our clients do the work, especially when it comes to coaching industry. We can be there for them and we can hold a space for them, but we can't control the outcomes of what happens. Or even if you're like launching a new program or, trying to get clients, it's, we can't control what happens with these people, if they want to work with us or not. No matter how great your sales conversation process is, it's still out of our control. And I think when we just step into being ourselves and not trying to feel jaded necessarily, and just like, here's what I am, and I'm just gonna be positive about it. And then typically great people feel more attracted to that versus the more negative. And it's So I'm friends with a lot of business owners on Facebook, and very often I see very negative posts like, oh, I can't believe people are like whining about this and this and this. And then, stop saying very negative. And it's funny because they don't realize they're negative posts because they position themselves as like, you're being negative, stop being negative. But still the fact that they're talking about negativity is negative in itself because that's what they're talking about.
Well, yeah, because by pointing a finger at someone else, you are abrasively calling them out.
Right. Exactly. So I think the same thing, like in a dating profile, if I'm saying, if you're this, don't even bother messaging me, or like, I hate this. And, I need someone that's a man. And that's very negative too. And that's not going to attract the right people either, because it's going to attract people that are like, yeah, man, those people suck. Like, that's not a very, and it's kind of sad because I know I read somewhere too that we do tend to bond more strongly over something we both disagree on versus something that we agree on, which is unfortunate, but still it's not a very good basis for like a positive, uplifting relationships.
Oh yeah. Our last political election is a great example of
right.
That.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to bond with somebody over shit talking and gossiping rather than I totally have friendships that I like. One of our favorite things to do is just snicker or behind the scenes at different things.
Yeah.
Which is something that I'm not necessarily proud of, but it's something that I do enjoy.
Right. I mean, we bond over, we bond over that, and it's unfortunate, but it's like human nature. But it's being aware of that too. And then, what do you want to put out there, especially when you're like asking for it and like seeking it out. I think we have to be more intentional with what we're actually attracting and what words we're using publicly, like on a dating profile, or like when we share on Facebook as an entrepreneur, like what are we sharing exactly? That's who we're going to attract. So.
And so how did your dating profile went from bullet points to a paragraph?
No, it's a couple of paragraphs. It's like me talking about like, here's what I enjoy. And it's a little bit more, I would say, emotional is not the right word. It's just like more sensory, I would say, where I don't just say, I like good music. It's more so when I listen to great music, I just like to dance. And, it's just a little bit more like creating a picture. So yeah, I very recently did this, maybe a week ago or so, but I've seen better quality. I mean, also a lot of creeps, but just in general, more people are messaging me. So yeah, I guess they are like that.
Well, this has been fantastic. We definitely did not talk about dating before we started this recording. So
yeah, I love that it just went into this.
I know, I am too. I'm something I'm happy to talk about at any time. So one last thing before we go though, when you are feeling out of control, or your business is feeling out of control, or your dating life is feeling out of control, or like you've made the choice to be brave and it's completely like all bets are off as to how it's going to turn out. What advice do you have to give somebody?
What I typically do is I surround myself with people and actually ask for help and finding like other perspectives of what might be going on. So that's the first thing I do, which is why I always work with coaches. And, I have like masterminds and stuff where I can always just ask for support and there's going to be no agenda and actually getting that support. So that's been very helpful for me. But the other thing, if things feel out of control and I just feel really overwhelmed, I tend to kind of separate myself for a day or two and just let go of thinking about that topic and go do something completely different and just not think about it at all. So what I typically do, since I haven't lived near my parents for a year and a half now, so I typically will just fly out to Chicago and hang out with my parents and do, family stuff. And then I'm kind of like refreshed and I reconnect to what's important to me. And then I kind of come back with a more, just fresher perspective and see that my problem that I had, it's solvable. Everything is solvable. And there is ways to approach it.
Yep. That's good advice. Well, Kamila, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Emily.
Okay. So I'm giving you a virtual high five for being online dating, and best of luck to you.
Yeah. You too, girl.
It's a crazy world out there.
It is.
Okay, so your brave takeaway from today's show is the Barenaked Bravery coloring book. No, really. If you're doing online dating right now, I've noticed that having a lighthearted task to do on your first or an early date is a really good way to get to know somebody. There's something else to look at. You don't have to gaze each other's eyes. It's super awkward. There's stuff to talk about. So anyways, you can print off one of the killer coloring pages, which were drawn and designed by some stellar artists and fellow Barenaked Bravery listeners, and some of them have been a guest before. They're also all from all over the world. So each page has something to do with bravery and has an artistic fingerprint from an artist that is related to this podcast that you know that has all sorts of interesting conversation starter topics. So go ahead and download your own copy of that by going to the show notes for today's episode and downloading the Bravery Bundle, which also includes 2 free songs of mine and a bravery worksheet as well. And even if you don't use the coloring book or the pages on a first date, Camila and I would love to hear all about your favorite parts of today's Barenaked Bravery conversation. You can find Camila and myself on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more. Go ahead and tag us so that we can cheer you on and see what you're up to. Camila's links to all of her awesomeness and her digital strategy work for business owners. If you're a business owner, you should probably go check her out because she does really wonderful things. So all of that is available in the show notes for this episode. You can go to barenakedbravery.com for all of that. And if you are digging the music in today's episode, that's because it's brought to you by my friends at Music Box Licensing, a premier creative music agency dedicated to crafting and finding unique soundtracks. So to find out more about all the artists, musicians, and other sponsors of the show, please visit barenakedbravery.com/sponsors. I'm looking forward to being with you next week. We have some really awesome things in store for you, and also later on in this week too. So keep your eyes and your ears peeled. And until then, I have one message for you. It's this: be yourself, be vulnerable, be imaginative, be improvisational, be brave, because the world needs more of your Barenaked Bravery.